Today I want to respond to a totally inane piece of quote-unquote journalism. Well, it isn't that surprising because it's from Alex Jones. But still, I think that it is important to highlight this nonsense, if only once. I cannot promise you that I won't ever revisit this quagmire of stupidity, but here we go. Let's see what kind of ridiculous nonsense is being spread on that channel.
Welcome back to the War Room, folks. We are about to be joined by Alex Jones. Of course, obviously just finished up the Alex Jones Show, syndicated on hundreds of radio stations nationwide, and he wants to get into the hurricane and everything that's going on right now, the earthquake that just hit Mexico City that's breaking right now. Alex, what's on your mind?
Well, my friend, the big thing that we've all been talking about during the break here, we've even got earthquakes happening in Oklahoma and Arkansas and Texas the last year. That's not been recorded in decades.
Hold it right there, Alex. Are you telling me that there are earthquakes in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas? Really? Ever heard of the so-called fracking revolution? Let me show you two simple maps that highlight what might be going on there, and do note that Virginia Tech concludes that fracking may actually reactivate fault lines in the Earth's crust.
You've now got huge quakes hitting all over Asia, all over the Pacific Rim, all over North Korea, South Korea, Japan, China. And now the big question is, a lot of seismologists and experts are saying that the super caldera that we know has covered the entire United States basically 3 times in ancient history, is very, very active, set to explode, they think, in the next 100 years. That could be next week or obviously 99 years from now, but that's what the computer models are saying. So there's all these active things happening, but we know that you have the biggest quake in Mexican modern history since they've had seismographs over 100 years. That happened last week at 8.1, now a 7.1 right in the middle of Mexico City, going up towards California and those big fault lines up there that are 12 years overdue for a mega quake, Owen. So again, we are on a planet in space by an active sun with magma under the tectonic plates that we float on. So the congressman there, Chuck Johnson in Georgia, thinks that islands are floating on the water. He doesn't know that they're mountains sticking up, but in a way, he's right. Guam is connected to the crust. It's floating on lava, on magma in the Earth's mantle. So Owen Schroyer, we're reporting live right now on Facebook Mentions. I know you're on our AM and FM affiliates and TV affiliates like Great Cable Station in Houston, and also sending out your own feeds at Infowars.com/show. But back to you to give us your take on this. Now, you've got the big speech Trump gave at the UN today, and open college professors saying, you know, prepare to kill all the cops. It is a total communist civil war they're trying to stage. A crazy time to be alive right now.
So he rambles on about earthquakes for a couple of minutes without there being any point to it. It's a very interesting field of science, geology. And I had hoped to learn something new, but it seems he was regurgitating some facts without giving any meaning to them. And then he crosses over into a professor calling for people to kill all the cops, and that this is a total communist war effort. Wait, who wants communism in the West anyway, except for some fringe lunatics? But let's move on, because it gets even more confusing in a minute.
It certainly is, and that's why we're expanding our live broadcasting, because news is breaking all the time. We can't possibly cover it in just 4 hours. We need 10 hours. So we have David Knight in the morning, the Alex Jones Show, and then the War Room here with you now. And let's not forget, too, that North Korea, they've been testing bombs. They've had bombs that have registered, I believe, as 6.8 level earthquakes, if I'm not mistaken. I think that those are what the bombs were registering as. Then you also had the latest reports coming out saying that Kim Jong-un's latest nuclear testing with a hydrogen bomb has caused a supervolcano to become active again. So that's some crazy stuff too.
There is no dispute that underground testing of thermonuclear weapons can cause earthquakes. It's megaton-scale energy that has to be dispersed after all. But I wonder whether this volcano actually is about to blow. I've tried to corroborate it, and there are some news stories to be found, most of which obviously have screaming apocalyptic messages. However, any reputable news media, or scientific media for that matter, have yet to report anything significant on the Big Two mountain, which is indeed a supervolcano.
And while all of the liberals want to cry about global warming, want to cry about climate change, saying that man is causing climate change, essentially the plan is to tax your carbon use and basically tax you into poverty so that you can't do anything anymore because you can't afford the carbon taxes. Only if you're a rich elite can you afford the carbon taxes. But the same Hollywood celebrities that warn you of man-made global warming literally had air condition set up outside of the Emmys. So they were air conditioning the outside, wasting energy.
This is how they spin their narrative, and it is completely illogical. Let me show you. First, they deny climate change by saying mankind cannot emit more carbon dioxide than volcanoes, which is a non sequitur. Then they manufacture a premise that a hydrogen bomb testing may set off a volcano. And then they want to throw the blame on liberals and Hollywood movie stars, which is totally inconsistent with the message they've been spreading so far. Why is it even in there? As for a carbon tax, well, the only initiative I would support is a progressive carbon tax that would be redistributed amongst the people. In that way, low carbon technologies would be favored above high carbon technologies. It's what acclaimed climate scientist James Hansen calls fee and dividend.
It is because fossil fuels appear to the consumer to be the cheapest energy. Fossil fuels are not really the cheapest energy. They are not required to pay for the human health costs of air pollution and water pollution or for the costs of climate change. The public picks up the tab. So the required policy is to put a gradually rising fee on carbon collected from fossil fuel companies at the first domestic sale, at the domestic mine or port of entry. And 100% of the money should be distributed to the public, equal amounts to all legal residents. So the person who does better than average in limiting his carbon footprint will make money. This will provide a huge incentive for individuals and a huge incentive for entrepreneurs and business people. It will spur our economy, make it more efficient, and it will modernize our infrastructure and create hundreds of times more jobs than building a pipeline to transport the dirtiest fuel on Earth. With a fee of $10 per ton of CO2, rising $10 each year, after 10 years it will reduce our fossil fuel use almost 30%. According to economic simulations by the Carbon Tax Center. It will reduce our oil use in 10 years 3 times more than the volume of the Keystone Pipeline. George Shultz and conservative economists, in fact most economists, agree that a rising revenue-neutral carbon fee is the way to solve the climate and the energy problems. In fact, it's an opportunity to make our economy more efficient. An important point is that such legislation, I think, needs to be introduced by conservatives because I'm afraid liberals will try to take part of the money to make the government bigger. Not one dime should go to the government. 100% should go to the public.
But none of them, all of the people that complain about man-made climate change, none of them mention the geoengineering that is on record, spraying chemicals in the sky, cloud seeding, weather fighting, weather weapons. This is all on record, declassified government action. So you've got that going on. You've got private groups that now claim they can cloud seed to either cause rain or to stop rain from happening. But Hollywood and the liberals are silent on that man-made global warming. Then you've got nuclear testing, nuclear bombs being tested. How about Kim Jong-un that just tested a hydrogen bomb that has now caused a super volcano to go active again? If you want to talk about things on Earth that cause climate change, look at volcanoes.
It depends on the amount of volcanic activity, of course, but to a large degree, mankind is a bigger emitter of carbon dioxide than volcanoes are. In fact, volcanoes can also make the Earth cooler by emitting aerosols that block the sun. But you didn't know that, and that's why you continue babbling on and creating one argument from personal incredulity to the next.
Look at how much carbon is emitted from a volcano. It's absurd to say that humans emit more carbon than a volcano. Kim Jong-un tests a hydrogen bomb, causes a supervolcano to go active again. Liberals are silent. Liberals are silent. Of course, that's just one angle of it. That's just one angle of it. But we've got the hurricanes happening now. It's hurricane season, the most active hurricane season in recent memory.
This is funny. He denies that man is making climate change worse, but he acknowledges that we can change the climate by making volcanoes go off. Then he denies that man is making climate change worse again. However, he then acknowledges that it is the worst hurricane season on record. What is it? This man is a walking contradiction.
But, ignore all the other planets in deep space that cause eclipses, that cause tide changes, that cause weather changes. Just ignore all that, because you don't want to think about how you're on a big planet out in deep space. You're not supposed to think about that. You're not supposed to think beyond your little Twitter account, your little Facebook account, and your little box apartment. That's what they want you to do. Stuck on the internet ghetto, stuck in your little smart box apartment. That's how they want you to live, and you can't afford the carbon tax. That's only for the elites. So you've got all of this going on right now, and really more than anything, I think that it's, whether you believe in God or the biblical prophecy as, divine intervention, it is playing itself out. I mean, you cannot deny that. If you read the Bible, it's undeniable that what you're seeing is happening and was laid before us in the Bible. That's why they call it the Rock of Ages. That's why the Bible's been around for thousands and thousands of years.
This must be the shittiest conclusion I've ever seen. We went from earthquakes to hydrogen bombs, to volcanoes, to liberals, communists, and ended up at the Bible. If that isn't incoherent and illogical, nothing is. I'm sorry for those who subscribe to my channel, who are also believers, but if the Bible tells us anything, it is how the people from ages ago thought, nothing more. These people were as scientifically literate as a carrot. Some people like Eratosthenes or Archimedes aside, of course. But the writers of the Bible didn't know diddly squat about the scientific method, and therefore the Bible cannot be any reliable guide in the realm of science. So there you have it. We've seen an inane piece of incoherent ramblings from the Alex Jones channel. Let's hope I don't find myself there anytime soon. Before you leave, if you consider becoming a Patreon supporter, please note that you can set a maximum to your monthly support. Your efforts help me create this content while taking care of my family. I hope that you see value in my videos and like to give something back for it. Even if it is only a thumbs up or whether you subscribe to my channel. And please do it, subscribe. I really need the subscriptions. Thank you for watching.